So there's this theme in the Old Testament that replays over and over and over again about how the Israelites are disobedient towards God and God punishes them and then God saves them. Then after they cry out in distress, the Lord shows mercy on them. And he saves them, and after he saves them, they turn right back around and do the same thing that they were doing before and not being obedient to the Lord. So I was reading in Judges today, and I just wanted to share a couple scriptures with you and talk about it. So, starting in Judges chapter 2, we're going to start at verse 13. They forsook the Lord and served Baal and the Ashtoreths, I believe that's how you say it. And the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel, so he delivered them into the hands of plunderers who despoiled them. And he sold them into the hands of their enemies all around, so that they could no longer stand before their enemies. Wherever they went out, the hand of the Lord was against them for calamity, as the Lord had said, and as the Lord had sworn to them, and they were greatly distressed. So, cause and effect. They were disobedient and disobeyed the Lord. And in turn, the Lord handed them over to their enemies and made them absolutely, completely miserable. And even though he handed them over to their enemies and they were greatly distressed, here we're going to see God's mercy. So, verse 16, Nevertheless, the Lord raised up judges who delivered them out of the hand of those who plundered them. And then we're going to skip down to verse 18. And when the Lord raised up judges for them, the Lord was with the judge and delivered them out of the hand of their enemies all the days of the judge. For the Lord was moved to pity by their groaning because of those who oppress them and harass them. So, disobedience angers the Lord, it upsets him, and in turn, he hands you over to your enemies, and you are in complete distress and calamity. The Lord chastens those whom he loves. Yet those same enemies he allowed to plunder the Israelites, he ended up turning those judges around and into his favor to show mercy to them. God was moved by their despair and their groanings through what they put themselves through, and he used those same judges to help them. Then after those judges were done helping them and easing their distress, after they died, the Israelites returned back to doing what they were doing and being disobedient and serving other gods. Oh, how I am like the Israelites, and I'm sure a lot of you are. How many times have we called out in distress and said, God, you just help me this time, just get me out of this. I'll never do this again. And then we turn right back around and do it again. Our disobedience led us into that calamity, yet when we called out to the Lord, he was gracious and merciful enough to save us anyways. Then towards the end of the chapter, it talks about how the Lord didn't drive out their enemies immediately because of the consistent rebellion and disobedience towards God. So sometimes he doesn't save us in an instant like he used to in the beginning. as we get further and further along, He is testing us, and sometimes He lets us sit in that, and He doesn't immediately come to our rescue. And you wait and you wonder, and you might go years, months, weeks, however long the Lord deems necessary, and you wonder, is He ever going to get me out of this? Is He ever going to help me again? And the answer is yes, He will. In His timing. We don't know when that's going to be, but He wants to see if we are going to stay consistent and obedient and remember all the times that He saved us before, and just hold on to that faith that He will do it again, because He's going to do it again. He's gonna make your enemies your footstool. He's going to turn the hearts of the judges. He's waiting to see if you're going to cease from your stubborn, rebellious ways. And when that time finally does come, you have a choice. You have a choice. How are you going to act? How are you going to act in your heart? He does this because this is a heart circumcision. He ain't worried about all those other people. He ain't worried about all your enemies. It ain't about them. It's about your heart and where your heart stands. Have you finally learned anything? And when that time comes, how are you going to act? When you have prevailed and cried out in distress and agony for so long, are you going to keep your heart right and be obedient with the Lord and continue doing what you were doing in order to get that breakthrough? Or are you going to turn into someone who's prideful, someone who wants to get back at the other person? Are you going to continue to walk in love when you get that thing after you've travailed for so long? Because if you don't keep your heart right, the Lord is going to continue to give you over to your enemies through your disobedience. So choose obedience when that time comes. You don't want to be like the Israelites wandering around in the desert for 40 years. You don't want to have to learn the same lesson over and over and over again for years and years. I've been learning the same lesson over and over and over. And I know when that time comes, when the vindication of the Lord comes, and I have spent all this time travailing and being obedient, when that time comes, my heart has to be set right. It's not got to be set on pride. It's not got to be set on vengeance. It's got to be a heart set on love towards other people and thankfulness for what the Lord has done. I don't want to be turned back over to my enemies again and go through that. I don't know about you, but I just thought I'd share that.